going live before I'm ready because
Okay.
it takes me to, so I'm probably live now. So, but I do need to mute and I just have to wait for it to load, and I forgot to bring the hotspot into the room with me. Here we go. Um, Good morning. I am higher vibrations and so are you. This is a joyful day. I have had, just like many of you, such an amazing experience as of late. Here we go. Okay, good. Um, on on Monday in particular, a lot of you felt it, the parade of planets that happened. We had a lot of amazing energy coming through from that. As a result, many of us had a variety of different kinds of experiences. Mine was I was cozy tired and I didn't want to do anything. And so I really didn't. And a lot of other kinds of body stuff has been happening. Um, I'm just sharing this out while I'm talking, so everyone has access to this. Um, this is a joyful conversation that I get to have. Varleigh here, I've actually not had the joy of having a conversation with her yet, except for through brief messaging. And so I'm just so happy that you said yes when I
Likewise.
asked if you would join us. So I should probably hit record too, so you can have this for later. So,
Thank
welcome
you.
to the show. How are
Oh,
you
thanks.
today?
Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome. And yeah, how are you today becomes a more loaded question by the second, doesn't it, these days? Like, how am I at this moment, right? No, all is well. Thank you. And again, my heartfelt thanks go out to you for having me on here. And it's a pleasure to be here and connect with you and whoever else might happen to be joining in.
Thank you. I'm really excited to kind of get into some. We already started talking a little bit. Oh, hello, love infinitums here. Carmen says he's first. New beginnings. Hello, all. Welcome, everyone. So we kind of started to chat a little bit before we went on, and I just love doing that because then you kind of get to know some people a little bit. But before we get into anything, there's always the question, because we all have this in common. We all had an awakening moment. Now we have, as we all know, phases of awakening, and we typically point at one of the most profound. So I was curious if there's one that you would like to share. Like, what was your one experience that's really pushed you to this now moment?
Sure, and that is right. We all do have that in common. Actually, before I get to that, pardon me, the whole reason why I even found you and your beautiful channel was looking into ascension symptoms. And yes, I've had them ongoing, rolling in different ways and morphing for quite some time. But there's some new ones, some surprises, and I just kind of put out there like ascension symptoms for whatever, in a search. And it was so great to see you talking like real time now, what you're going through and then seeing everybody else in their comments. Thank you for everybody, for making this a community, because it is so important. I'm sure I'm not, we all talk about this. You feel like you're the only one out there, you've had an awakening and your family doesn't understand it. You can't quite discuss it because there's no discussion. Like they just look at you maybe like a deer in the headlights, or, what's going on. And so just to find some, not support like in a needy way, but just camaraderie, like, wow, we're going through this. No one's going to understand this, but we kind of know what's going on, but we're also just kind of coming into the remembering of all of this. So anyway, I found you by looking for some specific ascension symptoms, and we can get into some of that later. But my awakening, I call it my hit the floor cracking open moment. The big one
Mm.
was in 2010. Was in 2010. And right leading up to it, I got to go prior to that a tiny bit real quick, because I had one that I didn't realize I had. And it was my little precursor to like, hey, something's coming. And that probably should have been the moment, but I just didn't get it. So in 2007, I got what is the precursor to what was unleashed on the world in 2020. I'll just say it was a test trial for it. And I know it now because they said there was like no taste, no smell involved. Both of my lungs went completely filled with fluid. They didn't know why. They didn't even know what to call it. When I was discharged from the hospital, they didn't even have a name for it. They're like, we don't know what this is. So that was, yeah, you're going to see I'm going to wander all over the place, but I will tie it all back together.
I do the same thing. That's divine feminine energy.
Yeah.
We a story like this. We go to
But we'll be back.
all the weeds. Go ahead.
But this was a key moment for me to now, where I am and going through several awakenings, to come back to of what is happening in the world, and it's why it happened, because it was very confusing. Why is this going on now? But it was probably my original awakening, but I was just too not there to see it, So I end up in the hospital. The whole thing is I won't go the long version. We'll do the shortcut. But so I end up in the hospital. I had done everything prior, make sure my lungs were clear, did a scan. They said, oh, clear. We'd be surprised if it was pneumonia. And right then I'm like, shoot, because you just felt it. It's like, damn it, it's going to be pneumonia. But I wasn't expecting it or wishing it. I'm just like, when somebody says something and that word, it just hits in the stomach and you're like, yeah, okay, get ready. So I end up in the hospital, long story short, and lungs were filling up. They did everything they could. They had me on brain cancer medication. I had no idea they had me on that. And they said that we've thrown the toughest stuff we know to do. We don't know what you have. And I'm going, oh, this is, wow. My body's usually healthy. I can't believe we're not rebounding off of this. At the time I had a toddler. This was real because they said at one point, there's nothing more we can do for you. They tell me this alone in the room. I kept my family away on purpose because they didn't know what it was. People had died from it. And again, this was them rolling out and testing out what was engineered against the public later recently. And I know it. And I know I went through this so that I could recognize it when it started happening in 2020. I'm like, anyway, so back then there were no ventilators. They had a therapist come in and hit you really hard on the back and then roll you over and just hit you back. I mean, this was like, wake up. Really to get the stuff moving around the lungs. Anyway, they come to me that fateful night and say, nothing more we can do for you. We'll be surprised, I quote, because this rang loud and having a child. We'll be surprised if you wake up in the morning. Okay, that's what I'm handed to as a mom. It was getting to be Christmas time. God bless them. There were people volunteering and doing caroling in the corridors to try to cheer up the patients. And I had one of these moments where I got very calm. I'm like, okay, well, but then I got kind of not angry, but kind of gave my last shot. And I remember in my mind's eye, I raised my left hand and I'm like, God, this is between you and me now. Okay, this is our moment. And I said, if it's my time, I'll concede. I have my gorgeous child. I do not want to leave. With all my heart, I want to be the one. I might tear up and be the mom for him. However, I concede from a bigger picture, maybe my purpose was only to come here for the couple of years, bring him through, and that was my job. Maybe there's another person better suited that's going to come on his path to serve my role that he needs to develop him to his best. I must concede that's possible. But I said, unless you are going to put an equal or better version of me as his mom on that path, I'm not going anywhere, and it's not my time. And I said, I know there's your will and my will, but there's also my will. Otherwise, there wouldn't be my will. You would just tell me. But hey, my vote here, hello, is I want to stay. I vote to stay. And I remember saying it so clear. I vote to stay. I accept whatever. What am I going to do? I'm there with two full lungs. I'm telling God, I'm staying. But right. my vote is to stay. I got calm. I felt very calm. I didn't want to even see my family call them in, nothing. I just thought, I don't want them to know. If I pass, I pass. They'll find out. It's okay. And then somewhere in the background, the TV was on. And I hated the TVs being on, but the nurses would leave the TVs on. And I couldn't go get it, turn it off. We didn't have the remotes back then. Yeah. So somewhere in the distance is Wayne Dyer. And what he talks about, the one line I heard, and I didn't really know who he was at the time. I kind of started to know who he was. He, wrote the book about the shift. I haven't read that one. But anyway, somewhere the one line that I hear and I remember is, well, heaven is right here on earth, right inside of us. And I'm like, that's it. Doesn't matter where we are, physically, etherically, anything. We are here where we are. Whether we're in this body, whether we're floating around as an angel, whatever, does not matter. Heaven is wherever we are. So then I thought, wow, okay, all right. So then I had zero incentive to go to sleep that night because they told me they'll be surprised if I wake up, right? So I go to sleep. I wake up in the morning and I'm looking around and it's the hospital room. And I'm like, is it the hospital room? Or like, am I in another room that they're like,
Right.
heaven making it look like a hospital
Right.
room? I was really confused. And then all of a sudden these people come in, they're in a rush. They're like, get her to the scan, So they rushed me out to the x-ray. I come back. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I'm so confused. They come in later, 3 of them, I'll never forget, standing at the foot of my bed in their white coats, doctors. Eyes as big as saucers, the jaws to the floor, and they're like, I'm like, what? You've already given me the worst news a mother could ever receive. What? Tell me. Yeah, like they said I'm going to die. So like, what more do you want to say to me? They're like, and they're like, no. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we don't understand. I'm like, I was like getting really frustrated. What don't you understand?
Right.
They're like, we don't know. I'm like, what? Your lungs. They're completely clear. We don't know how that happened. We can't explain it with science. And I'm like smiling and I'm like, I know how, because that moment. And at the same time, I heard there were a lot of people praying, but that's that moment where this ties into my first awakening, my official one, because it's that moment where you just get clear with God. And even no matter how busy or not busy you are, I used to be in a house where there was like no privacy except for going in and sitting on the toilet seat and just sitting there. That was my quiet space, right? As I know a lot of bustling parents, you probably understand. And if you don't, you understand that moment if you just need your space. But that's a moment where I can just get quiet and be like, okay, it's between you and me, God. It always is in every situation. The outside world is just, that's the illusion. The crux of it is, between us. So anyway, all that to say, that probably should have been when I really woke up, but no, what did I do? I stayed in the rat race. I was in a corporate job. The relationship wasn't going well. Everything was starting to, go downhill. So that led up 3 years later of sustaining some kind of, a lot of pain in different ways. We make it to 2010 and then all hell broke loose. So spouse gone, job gone, like so many things, house left, everything at the same time. That's what brings you to your knees. So the career that I had too much identified, commingled myself with, had to break apart. Of course, in the time, I didn't know what the heck's going on here. What did I do, right? But that was to literally bring me to my knees. I was on the floor, prostate laid out. That was it. Now, in that process, I want to mention something because it was 2010. And I think I know you mentioned your birthday. So I'm about 9 years older, but by Earth years, not somebody's up here, somebody's down here, whatever.
Right.
So in 2010, when it happened, you got to think about technology. Yes, we had cell phones, but I remember it was like, wow, novel when somebody sent me a picture over a text, right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, oh, let me run to the internet and find out what's happening to me, right? So what happens for me then, which I think is maybe a little different for people awakening now, or maybe it's the same, I don't know. You watch who comes on your path, who's coming up on your path, because I think God never really truly leaves you totally desolate and alone when this happens. You might find a neighbor, or it might be a child, or some woman, another woman at the kids' school who I hardly knew. I saw her crying in the parking lot and it was just like, oh, are you okay? And then little did I know that a few months later, she was going to be the one to kind of walk through me with all this. And she had a little more of the wisdoms going on. Like she had already found some books. So my first introduction hitting the floor, like, what was this book called The Game of Life and How to Play It? I don't know if you noticed, by Florence Scovel Shinn. It's like 50 pages. It's from 1922 or 21, whatever. She was a metaphysical teacher. And there's a lot about Christ and Jesus and stuff that didn't click with me then, because I still have a very specific kind of, I know we say understanding about that now. And I was like, that's too churchy. But then you get into it and then it gets into more spiritual. And so many great examples in there. And she was on me for weeks, like, you got to read that book. And I was still like crying on the kitchen floor. I'm like, I can't read anything. And I'm thinking it's going to be a big book. I'm like, that's the last thing I want. I've been overloaded in the corporate world, 300 emails a day and just forget it. But she kept kind of like each week, not mean, but just like, hey, did you get that book? And I'm like, So I finally got it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, because then the reading was such a great distraction from the, like, what just happened to me through the trauma. the reading, I really started getting into the reading Occupy the Mind. Then, in a magical way, the book Conversations with God by Neil Donald Walsh came my way. And that was in my trunk. It was supposedly given away at a garage sale. And I'm like, go to my trunk. I'm like, why is this even here? And I started reading it. The only word I can phrase is my brain hemorrhaged. Literally, I felt like my brain was swelling up out of my skull with the knowledge and breaking open of the truths, and what my whole life has kind of been a lie in a moment. And there's 3 of those books, by the way, but that was good because the first one really did it for me. But then I'm like, okay, I got to keep my mind. I want that monkey mind toned down, looping around. I wasn't great I was trying meditation, but like, nah, that ain't working. You're not going to see me in a lotus position. Maybe walking through nature. I just can't, forget it. I really tried to for years. Anyway, point is, the people start coming on the path. The right books start coming, or these days, whatever, YouTube video, right? And so that's kind of how it naturally progressed. And even the very moment that I cracked open, and I feel it's important to say, I don't want to kind of exhaust time on this, but stop me if it's like, oh man, she'll never going to stop with this.
Keep going. This is awesome.
But I love the way this unfolding of all this awakening stuff is going on. I love when I'll say God, it can be source, it can be Jesus, Buddha, Allah, whatever you want to call it, love, whatever, the capital L. Point is, I love when God kind of really exaggerates something in your life.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
It's either it's over the top, and it's either really good or seeming really bad, but nonetheless, when it's exaggerated, it's like, wake up, pay attention here. And the only way to get us out of our I'm just going to go do this and this and this, our routine, is to make you stop and look, right? So right before that, right as that awakening happened, leading up to it, it's like I was going to work, I was miserable doing the routine. And it was even over the top in that work, because I'd be working 24 hours or really, really late. It was just not working for me personally anymore. But at the same time, I started getting an underlying feeling like I'm not doing what I came here to do. That line just kept, I'd be doing the paperwork, go, go, go. And something kept slowing down inside me saying, this is not what I came here to do. And I'm thinking, okay, but I don't know what, I'm in this thing. I don't know what to do. This is right before the job went away. So then the walls started looking dingier. Every time I'd go in, things started to not feel right. And then the day I got let go, I got let go, but I got let go with people who had been there for 25 years. They had been doing the corporate purge, and I was making it to the end anyway. But I remember I got let go, but I was okay with it. I didn't know where the money was going to come from to pay for the house or do whatever, but I'm like, oh, it's going to be okay somehow. I don't know. It's going to be okay. So anyway, I go home. Of course, it's a little bit of a shock for many reasons, but then I'm like, no, all right, okay, how am I going to just relax now? I've been like, go, go, go. So I go home and I'm like, hey, I should be happy about this. The scary part was now what about income? But then the other part is well, you didn't want to be there any longer. So why don't you just embrace it? But it was too soon, because, I was invested, and that's how I'm getting my money. And I didn't know the rest of this stuff that we get to later. So then I remember going to bed going, this is nice. And I'm getting to the exaggerated part. I can sleep in. Oh my God. I'm actually going to be able to sleep in and not get up at 6 a.m. or whatever. So I was very happy about that. I'm trying to hold on to that. So I go to bed. I get a call at 7 a.m. The friend that was to be on my path calls, who I barely knew her at all, just seeing her in the parking lot. She calls me and she goes, I need your help. And her child had run into the corner of a concrete wall at the preschool, split her head open, and was spurting blood, whatever. And she goes, I'm terrible with blood. I don't know what to do. She's like, I'm like, well, get the ambulance, go to the hospital. She's like, on my way. Can you meet me there? And I'm going well, okay, I'm going to answer a call, and I run over there. She almost passes out, my friend, because she just can't handle the blood. I get it. So suddenly I find myself in the ER with a little girl, holding her down, lovingly talking to her while blood is spurting out. I'm in the middle of the ER TV show, I'm like, how am I here? It was like wrestling a marlin, because that girl had the strength of thousands in her. And so anyway, I get to the elevator after this whole thing. It works out okay. I pushed the button, I'm like numb, it was strenuous, emotionally, physically, whatever.
Oh,
I get to the car, I start crying. I'm like, I had to be fired. I would not have been there for her. I could not have gone. I would have said no because I was the only one like where I had to be and nobody else could be there. And I'm like, I get it. Now I'm going to fast forward because this story ties right into something else. Fast forward 2014, I'm in a job downtown. Same thing. It starts to get to like, this is like not supposed to be here after a year and things are just not feeling right, but I don't know how to get off the train. And I've been doing all my spiritual stuff. It's still not working. I'm miserable. Well, finally something happens and I go, okay, I'm my resignation. I'm out. They wouldn't fire me. I had to resign. So I drive over the bridge to go back to where my house was to pick up my child. I was running late and I see a big rainbow as I'm going over, right? And that morning, when I think about it, when I was going to the job, going, what do? I can't take this anymore. I saw a rainbow. So then another rainbow going over the bridge to pick up my son. And I'm thinking as I'm driving, did I do the right thing? Was I supposed to just jump again with the money? How am I going to pay for, I have this apartment. I don't know, but I just couldn't anymore, right? And so I'm questioning it now. I'm like, oh gosh, like buyer's remorse. Was that the right thing to do?
right.
So I see the rainbow. That should have been enough, but no, hard learner, right? This is the exaggerated part and the interesting and that wow part, what God does in these moments of these awakening moments. So I get to the school, I'm uncharacteristically late, and my son was in the principal's office, right? So I go like in, and then who do I see sitting there in the lobby, in the little waiting area? This little boy, so cute, blood spurting out of his head. I'm like, and no one's around. I'm like, what's going on here? Hey, somebody get to him quick. And like one lady's on the phone in the back. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Grab some paper towels, get a towel. What do you have to compress? Because it was bleeding in the head. And they're like, oh, we're trying to get a hold of mom. I'm like, you get me, like you call 911. You get me something. Like, so they come back with those nasty, sad little brown paper towels, like from the bathroom that like don't absorb.
They don't absorb anything.
I was ready to like tear off part of my shirt or whatever. So they come with those and the lady just puts it like this. And I'm like, oh, this is not going well. So I'm like, what's going on? Where's the mom? And they're like, we can't reach her. We can't reach her. The nanny's coming. So slowly this nanny comes walking in. She doesn't speak English, which is fine because I can speak Spanish. But anyway, no one's doing anything. And I'm like, he needs to get to ER or somewhere right now, right now. And they're like, well, we got to wait for him. I'm like, no, I'm taking him in my car. I'm a parent here. My kid is coming with me right now. Or I don't know what you're going to do. Call the ambulance or he's coming with me right now. So anyway, they're like, they were kind of hesitant. I'm like, I'm taking him. Like, and I knew I'd be protected with God, like legally, if whatever, the kid had to be going to the ER. I'm like, I'll pay for it. I didn't even probably have the coins in the bank, but I'll figure it out. The kid needs to get seen kind of thing, right? So luckily somebody goes, oh, well, there's an urgent care maybe. So that was even closer. So I'm like, nanny or whoever, get in the car. We got the kid in the car, got him there. They check him out. Turns out, I'm like, if he goes to ER, we'll take him. Then they go, no, he's going to be okay, right? So the boyfriend shows up. They couldn't get the mom. Long story short, I know, but the boyfriend was working with my colleague who sat next to me. That was the boyfriend who left his job to come see after the kid. So it just shows you like how interconnected that was. And then after I got home from that, I thought, God is showing me, yeah, of course it's the right thing. What are the chances my exit from my first job, which I had no control over because they let me go, was a kid with a split open head. And now my questioning this letting go, it's another kid with a split open head because he hit the playground equipment. You can't just repeat that. It would be a sprained ankle, a broken arm, like a split open head with blood. So it just kind of was like, it's okay. You've been through this before. Last time it went down this way. Now this is the version of this. And yes, by the way, you had to say no in that moment because you were the one idiot. We, like God saying, we lovingly, that we needed you to go to that waiting room because no one was doing anything. So we sent you, unbeknownst to me, to go help that boy, right? So just trusting your instincts through all of it, even in her seeming pain, confusion. It's like we can't get it wrong, even though we feel like we might have messed up. There's no messing up. These are just experiences. It's like next week we could say, okay, let's spin it that way. This time it's going to be a girl and she's going to be in the park. And, it's kind of like, doesn't matter. Wherever we are, it goes back to what I said at the beginning, God is. And God puts us where we need to be, like, like a game, like, oh, I need Mela over here. And, oh, I need Karen over here. And they may talk today or they may talk a month from now. I don't know. But hey, we got to get them together, right? And all of us here right now in this precise timing. So, but anyway, that was my awakening moment. And between that and then jumping even further ahead, other mini awakenings, other dark nights of the soul. And I just came into a new one, and then I'm going to take a break, let you talk if you want. I feel like I'm hogging the time here. Is what I just came into new knowledge, because I've been at this for a while and still going through my, what the heck, what am I in now? It doesn't matter when your awakening is. It's still like, wow, this is all new. At least in our conscious, our subconscious probably is like, when are they going to realize they're just having experiences as we go through this? Don't put so much weight on it. But anyway, of course, I lost my train of thought. Hopefully it'll come back. But the new knowledge I came into. So we all know about the dark knots. I call it D knots, right? Dark night of the soul. But I came into a new one that I heard by watching a YouTube channel, and I think her name is Sarah Ariana, just recently. And she was describing something, and I'm like, yes, that's what I went through this whole last month. What the heck was that? And she called it the death of the old. So now I have Doto. And the way she was describing it, if you look on her channel, it was one of the more recent videos. I'm like, wow, because I know you've talked about it. There've been feelings of like a mourning, like a weeping, and something going on, and like I've had like a deep sorrow, and I'm like, I know it's not mine. Yes, I have sorrows going on in my life right now with family, like seemingly like turning their back on me out of nowhere. It's like going through a whole thing again. And I'm like, why? I didn't do anything. Like what? And it's just a further shifting again, as we're, further shifting like this. And, with the frequencies and kind of choosing your camp. No camp is better than another. It's just a camp. You want marshmallows over here, you want cider over here, go choose which one you want. Whatever, it's an experience. But it just means that the cider drinking people aren't going to be sitting with the marshmallow people today. Maybe there's a place where now that's going to, everybody going to be in one place, but it's later, right? But for right now, it's like, okay, they can go pick marshmallows. I'm going to pick cider or whatever, flip it. But the point is that I have been feeling this profound sorrow, and it hit me the other day, just like going somewhere to get gas or whatever. I'm like, ooh, and I've heard you mention Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars person. But it reminds me of when, Obi-Wan Kenobi in the first one in A New Hope, he's on the Millennium Falcon and goes, when the Alderaan has exploded. Oh, spoiler alert, anybody wants to watch it, maybe click mute for now. But he goes, it's like if, suddenly 1,000 voices cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. I kind of feel like this somewhere people are hurting and ooh, and it's like, it's going to be okay, but wow, there's so much hurting, and then, and then I move on. But those have been happening. And then also combined with my personal, story stuff happening where I feel like loss. They're here still. It's not like they passed, but they might as well have in a way, because we're not literally seeing each other, right? So it's like that kind of feeling combined. And it's like, I think it's just this, it's because we're weaning away from all the old and even each other. But it's just the physical us's, like, again, we just have to, like I say, zoom out above the chessboard. You can be the little pieces duking it out. Like in that Harry Potter movie, you got the oversized chess pieces. You can be on the board in danger and in it. Or you can zoom out above and say, oh, okay, oh, that's what she's doing here. Oh, that's what he's doing there. Okay, well, they can go here, then go where they want, or they can also get off the damn board, because there is no board unless you believe there's one. I've been off the board for
cheesy if you want to.
Exactly. Choose tic-tac-toe or just none, throw the board out and float. So it is a game. Goes back to my first book, No Coincidence, that with my awakening, the game of life and how to play it. And it is a game, right? So do you want to play the game and be that like frustrated little 2-year-old who cries because you don't know how to play it and you're losing and you're frustrated and you express that way? Fine, do it. Or you're a little older and you're playing it and you're like, man, I stink at this, or hey, I'm doing really great, and then the next day you play it, it's a game of chance, right? Then the 2-year-old's going to win, and then the other one's going to be like, ah. Anyway, I'll take a
I
pause.
love this analogy. I'm going to go with it for a second. Is that play is what we're meant to do, and play doesn't coexist with rules very well. And so
Whose rules? Did you
right,
make the rules?
right,
I don't like playing a game where I didn't make the rules or at least agree with them.
right. And like the best example of all of the different games is the game I call the bad the feeling bad game. It's the game that makes you feel bad is what I always say is Monopoly,
Ah,
because
me too.
it's full of code of this money system. Someone else mentioned something earlier. Um, spiritual warrior. What was it? It's you that said it? Oh, here it is. Yeah, spiritual warrior. Spell casting. We talked about the doctors, and she commented when you said that. Um, this is spell casting. You know, we it's someone telling you to believe something, and we choose to believe it. An example Elsa Dillon was on the show a while back. She made was that if you have like an Aboriginal dude and like an American dude, and they're standing in front of a doctor, and the doctor says you have 2 weeks to live, the American guy will get sick immediately. The Aboriginal guy didn't. Then you go to their, you know, to the shaman medicine man of this tribal region. Same thing occurs. The American man's like, I'm not going to die. I'm fine. 3 days, the Aboriginal guy is gone. You know, like it's choosing and choice points. You made
Well,
a
and sorry, and also remembering you have a choice.
yeah,
It's not A or B. There's C, D, E. There's none of the above. There's all of the above. There's like, I don't even want to talk to you or answer it. You know,
right.
it's not just either or.
Fill in your own answer.
And I have a direct story about that. Family member recently passed to do the caregiving. I show up on the heels of burying another family member somewhere else. Come and I get a call. You got to come back to hospital. We got somebody in there. I rushed there. They said I hear from a brother, he has 3.5 weeks to live. Right away, I looked at him. I said, no, he has longer. That wasn't wishful thinking. It came from here. Here said, no, I'm just saying it. He has longer. And I was looked at and I know it was confusion coming back at me, but then kind of like maybe a little bit of a subtle understanding. And I said, I don't know if it's going to be a week, a month, longer. I know it's longer though. And I know it's not 3.5 weeks. I'm like, who even said it's 3.5 weeks? How could they even know? Right?
Yeah.
Getting back to your point. So we go in, and that was my energy, like carrying, like lifting up like Atlas, the whole world of weight. Guys, I'll carry it. I know it's longer. You can, criticize me later all you want, but I know it. So say what you want. I know it's more than 3.5 weeks. And sure enough, 3 other surgeons had tried to do something to remove something that could not be removed. I'm like, no, it's longer. I don't even know why anybody's saying this to me, right? No, not in computing. Sure enough, the right man dropped in, a creative thinker, an outside the box. He's like inspired. I talked to the surgeon after, and he's like, you see how I'm lit up. You saw I'm inspired by divine inspiration. He's like, yeah, I was looking and we can come in this way and do it. And he's like all excited. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And sure enough, he did it. He even engineered parts in a way that weren't traditional. He's not worried about somebody suing him, coming in. He knows, because he knows, like I know, like when you are connected. What are we talking about here? He did it. So to your point, never let anybody tell you. Now, if you want to believe it and co-create it, I don't even like the word co-create. If you want to believe that story and live that story, your choice, live it or not, like live it for the shorter time. It's our free will, believe it or not, literally. And then if you don't want to believe it and think there is a chance, then okay, let's explore that path. And that's what we did. And a year and a half later, my father did pass. However, that was a year and a half when it was supposed to be 3.5 weeks. Now, he could have even made it longer. Certain choices were made, were not mine. I advised against, but it is what it is. So to your point, yes, it is about what do you want to believe into? And it's possible. And you have that choice. And so what? Don't game the outcome. Like, I'm going to believe in this, so it better happen. No, Just say, hey, this is what I'm gonna believe, and then see what comes.
Yeah.
You know, but you're right. Play, play, play. We're so overthinking everything, you know, looking at every angle. But what if I fall? Okay, you fall. Maybe you meet somebody when they're, you know, bandaging up your knee, and you needed to talk to them because now they're going to do this. This is, you know, just flow if you can,
Yeah.
right?
And enjoy.
Yeah.
There's something else I wanted to bring up before but and there's a lot of, you brought up choice points, and that's something to discuss in a bit. Before I get too far, you brought something up that most of us have an experience with, and when we're in it, is we don't understand or have an idea of what to do. You said, I got off the train. This was right before you resigned. What brought you to the ability to this space where, and what she meant by those of you who didn't hear that part and just joining now, leaving the rat race, you know, is another way of saying it, or leaving 3D is some way that people have worded as well. And what brings forward that moment where
Yeah, the
you're like,
actual moment where I said we're just cutting it.
yeah,
Well, yeah, it's that slow build, like through many jobs before anything actually with a 9 to 5. It's like I never signed up for going to a 9 to 5. Who decided 9? I like 10, 11, 12. Like I'm not a farm worker, you know, even if I run the farm, who said I have to get up at 7? You know, I want to make my own time.
I don't
Who
have
said I have to
cows.
pay? Who even said I have to pay a bill or that there's a late fee? What the heck is that? Why have this punitive stuff? Why is it the 30th of the month, or why can't it be 2 months? You know, like I did not agree on a conscious level to this game because that's all a game too. And I did not create the rules, therefore I will not play. So when I woke up to realize I'm not playing that game, I'm going to play in my own way. It was just a slow build inside. It was just increasing dissatisfaction, sorrow. At one job, it felt like someone was pressing a brick wall against my chest. Like it just felt bad. And I'm like, that was God in my body, everything saying, what are you doing? But I still didn't get it. Hard learner. You know, we're trying to break through the programming, and God love us, you know, we were so programmed, still are in so many ways. And so it was this intensifying, like, this is, I felt like a hamster. I was seeing it in my mind. You're a hamster on one of those wheels. You're a hamster on a hamster wheel. What are you doing? It just became more and more intense. So when when I got released in 2010, I'm like, I'm never going back to that field again. I feel terrible. It's not, oh, just learn and get to a place where you can accept that and then thrive. No, I tried that for years. And then my body was just saying, when are you going to get it? Get off the damn wheel, hamster wheel. So in that moment where I did so 4 years later, I had to go back into the situation I said I never would do because it was draining, dwindling. There was no funds. And I'm like, how do I get out of this hole? I went on my knees on the floor weeping. God, what do you want me to do? I'm trying to do the spiritual way. That's not the way I know it. So it can't be answer can't be to go back. But I had a couple subtle signs kind of being like, you're going to go back. I'm like, no. So I was literally on my knees. I had just cut grass. I was doing whatever I could do to get, pick up the coins. And I didn't mind that. I actually loved being out and working the earth and stuff and the sunshine. I'm like, yeah, but I still need more coins to sustain what I had. So I hit the ground again. And I'm like, what do you want? Crying. And the phone call came in right then. And it was an interview to go exactly where I did not want to go. And I'm like, is this one of those things where I show how strong I am and in belief that I'm not going to take it? And the answer was like, just go to the interview. You don't have to take the job, but go to the interview. But I'm like, damn it, I know if I go, I'm going to get it. Sure enough, I did. And I jump back in. So I said I'd never go back. I went back. That was part of it leading up to my frustration. Then it was the job, but it was like turbo job. It was like now crazy over the top hours. Like the first day I showed up, they're like, can you stay to get this deadline done? I was there till 2 a.m. My very first day on the job. I'm like, oh, damn. God, what are you doing? You're playing with me, man. You're playing with me.
Yeah.
So I endured that like for a year. And I'm like, okay. And in that time, I was going to these, meditations, getting all the spiritual things. And I'm like, what am I doing? It's not about growing to accept this. It's like, no, it's time to get out, right? But it took a while. And again, the financial keeps us strapped and anchored. The dark side knows what it's doing here to keep us trapped, feeling trapped, right? The feeling of being trapped.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, no more. what happened, to answer your question more directly, is the exaggeration does kind of come back to the theme of God gets it, makes it so exaggerated. So what was happening? Things were getting out of control, crazy. Like, I'm trying to handle raising my son and doing the job and all of this. And so I was running to the parking lot to get to the car, to get to him on time, to pick him up from school. What really blew it was like 2 days in a row, I tripped. I had all these heavy things. They went all over the parking lot. I'm like splayed out on the parking lot. I'm like, okay, we're done. I'm trying to do too much. This is, when are you not going to get it? You're even physically falling. That never happens. This is over the top crazy now. Let's just call it what it is. You got to do something about it. And also, I had a former husband at the time was taking care of the child. Other friends were starting to take care of him. And I'm like, okay, no. I'm the parent. I'm taking care of my child. If it's getting to that, it's him or me taking care of. If we go out another ring with it, no, something's wrong here. Very wrong. So all of that combined together. So then I just, when I was home, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. But I was still kind of nervous and like, scared. I'm like, but no, it's like, enough now. When are you going to get it? The falling in the parking lot. And I just couldn't anymore, and it was just getting so crazy. So when I went back that morning, I was still like, oh, when in the day am I going to say I'm leaving? Right. And so, because you have a choice, the morning, you do it right away or you wait. And then I thought, oh, I'll wait, and then I was at the computer and then somebody came up and said, well, are you coming to the meeting? And there's no way I could even take one more meeting. I knew it. And so she said something, it was kind of like a little trigger sentence that got me to actually just say, okay, we're done. And she just said, what are you waiting for? And then I sat there and I'm like, what am I waiting for? Why am I not just saying, thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. Because they were lovely people, to be with and work with, the whole team. But I'm like, what am I waiting for? This is my call. This is nobody else's call to tell me when to go. I mean, it can be if you're let go, but this time around, it's up to me. I got to own it. And I got to not be afraid. And that's when I said, you know what? Thank you, but here's my resignation now. And so I stayed on 2 weeks later to wrap things up, but that was okay. And then it was fine. Like, some people, didn't want me to leave, and others probably didn't even know I left. But the point is, it was up to me to make the call. Yeah. And once you do, you own it, and then even when that was the day that I went, and then the kid had the split head. And then that's when I knew all of this is right. It feels still shaky. I don't like, because I don't know where this is all going to lead or how I'm going to sustain, but it's time. How many writings on the wall? And some of us, we need multiple. We just do, it's okay. Whether we get there tomorrow or we get there, 20 years from now, does it truly matter when we know time is illusory? Right. No. I went to some personal, some readers who are so excellent that I've just found on YouTube. And I've been talking to one, and she's so good. Or no, sorry, this one was even before. Sorry. This was when I was in the mess, the hot mess express. Some girls said that. I love it. It's a hot mess express, right? Go back to the train thing. Get off the train. It's a hot mess express. I found this one reader, spiritual guide. I like to say, I don't like the word psychic, but she was so intuitive, and she's probably like 20, 38 years younger. It doesn't matter about age. And she said something, and it made me really mad, but it was truth. And she goes, yeah, I'm hearing kind of they're laughing, the angels or whoever. She goes, because you're complaining about patience and it's taking so long. And when am I going to get to what I want to do? And, all of this, right? Like, what is this? I don't like what I'm in. And she goes, yeah, you think you've been enduring this for like 4 years, the real crying moments on the floor. She goes, they're laughing. They're saying, yeah, but you don't know what it's like to endure that for 20 years. And I got so mad because I'm like, oh no, don't tell me it's going to take 20 years to finally like feel good through this journey. Right. Yeah. And now we're at year like 13, not to count, but yeah, I'm counting. So yeah, but it's funny. It's like, but things are starting to break open again now. So it's good. But the point is, time, it's relative, right? Like 1 minute can seem like forever, in a good way or a bad way. Like, is this ever going to end? Or, wow, this is so much fun, Or, it can seem eternity, or it can seem real quick. It just depends on how we're receiving it. So, does it matter if it's a day? Does it matter if it's 20 years? Well, if you're crying every day, yeah. But eventually we move through what we're supposed to move through, and we won't be, right? And then it'll morph and change as it is now. So yeah, it's just, man, it's like, I think I can sum it up in like, faith and this walk, it's like it should be the easiest thing in the world, but it's also the hardest thing in the world, just to trust.
Right.
Just to trust something's got us. And we can't get it wrong. You can go the straight way or you can meander. One is not more correct than the other, right?
Right. There are many paths to the peak of the mountain, and that's all of our destination is the peak of this mountain.
And to answer your question, I think it was just really listening. Like I needed to hear that little trigger sentence and connect and click it, inside too. Like, what are you waiting for? And I'm like, yeah, okay, no, that's right. We're going to do it. And even if it's wrong, so what? Come with me. Let's bungee jump off the bridge.
Right.
The cord, what works all the time. Maybe one time it doesn't. Well, then it was just your time to go. Like if lightning hits you, that's, you may survive. You may not, but okay. Experience it, right?
That's exactly my experience too with this. I like that. I love the way that you answered that. And there were so many aspects that we get code all day long, every day. We do, and I'm only still just barely starting to notice these codes. You know what I mean? If you look at it in contrast to it, the getting off the train concept for me happened in 2007. I was diagnosed with a terminal illness and I should have been dead last week. And they were like, how are you still alive? That was 2007. I didn't undergo any of their surgeries or medications that they were trying to get me to do.
Good.
And here I am, by the way. And they even falsely told me it was a type of cancer. It was called systemic scleroderma. It actually got brought up earlier. Spiritual warrior says you have to rebuke those spells out loud. And I agree. However you choose to word it, some people will say I rebuke and say those words, and for me that doesn't work. That's like saying thee, thou, thy. I'm not talking to anybody when I say those words. Those are like that feels like however, if I use my words and I say however it feels correct for me, what is more the choice I'm making, and it's like I'm healthy. I'm recovering through this. I've learned also not to speak out loud any kind of illness. Saying, and when it comes to this 9 to 5 concept, we're made to call on the phone and in writing to say, I am, use the I am statement against self. And you can find once we declare illness aloud regarding self, I don't even want to say it now as an example.
No.
That will immediately, I have noticed anyway for myself, immediately become so. Like I might have felt off at first and then all of a sudden crash, it's like really pronounced. And these things are really a true strong thing that's occurring.
And especially now at this phase of we'll do the game theme at this phase of the game and with the solar flashes. I mean, look at these things coming. We're getting energies and those are, good ones, despite what something else might say. But bam, 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 things are changing. Things are shifting like fast and quicker now. There is the quickening. I think they even talk about it with the Hopi and the Hopi prophecies, the quickening. And then they said, when things speed up, you yourself slow down. And it's so true. It's like, become that eye of the storm. Let the crazy spin around. Like it can be a hurricane spinning around you. That's okay. We're chill here in the center. I'm grounded in me. And it's all right. That's all going to change and pass. It's just like, let it pass. Like being in the train, looking out the window, the landscape's going by. All right. All right. We're still on the train. Right. And so it's just like, we're calm. We can have our little tea service, whatever, and, but that because things are happening so quick, I've noticed too, that if I just think something, I got to be careful because things are showing up quicker. It's not like the longer delay where you have time to like do damage control. It's like, right. If you just think something, you kind of got to watch out because I mean, not in a bad way, but it could pop up right there,
In particular, actually, I wanted to say something about this. I'm glad you said this is a perfect segue. And Anna Toothman's in the audience. She had said something about it regarding it too. She said, I'm feeling liberation in this now, in this now with the new moon blessings, heart-based reality coming through, beloved sisters. And this new moon that we're having, I believe it's considered tonight. I actually haven't looked because I'm already feeling it. Like we've been in so much this week, starting at the Parade of Planets, like it's wow. However, this particular new moon, so as we all know, many people know, the Full moon is when you reap what you've sown on the new moon. New moon is time to manifest what you want for the coming month. And so I'm bringing this up because I've don't recall feeling such a powerful new moon before ever in this incarnation. I don't recall ever having it be so, wow. Manifestation has already been coming on so much more strong. And so this is just keeping this in mind. What is it you want to manifest for your tomorrow? What is it that you're choosing your now moment to be like? And then it is, especially right now, with the energies. And before I forget to mention it, Monday, for our little family, it turns out a lot of people had the same similar experience where I wasn't I wasn't struggling. I just was really cozy tired, and we just kind of stayed in bed like all day. I canceled appointments. And some other people felt it where it was like really strong energy of like energized. I want to bring that up because look at that. It's the same story. It just looks different. And it doesn't mean it's a different experience, and having people on as guests make it possible to have these conversations so we can see the variety of different things. And all of us need to jump off the train. All of us at some point realize that what we're doing is not in alignment with us somehow, and following that is scary. You choosing to quit, stepping forward and doing that. I felt the anxiety kind of feelings that you had that
It's a
whole
lot.
day,
Yeah.
and I get it. Because we've been taught slowly, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this streaming service, we need this subscription that we don't even know, we don't even use anymore. We need, and therefore we use more coins every day than we actually need.
And
It's
it's also, as a parent, like you're the provider, you've got to be responsible. Like I hate the R word. I'm sorry. The way it's used just irks me. Responsible, accountable. There's more to all of this. But again, it's kind of the punitive system, a system that would have you feel guilt and shame and punishment and all, I forget all of that.
right.
But you're the provider. What does that mean? Well, that's putting all the weight on your shoulders. So in a sense, yes, as a parent, you're where we provide things for somebody who's young, who isn't maybe necessarily going to do it. But then that's also trying to take away our power. The ultimate provider,
Yeah.
is beyond us. It comes from another place. They call it adepts when you're at a spiritual mastery where kind of like the Jesus level, where you can phase in and out of this reality. You can, go to a different dimension, come back. You can pull a coin out of thin air. You can pull bread out of thin air. That was written about in a book called, oh shoot, The Life. I'm not gonna, it's Baird T. Spalding is the author from the 1800s. And it's The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East, something like that. Anyway, they talk about that. There's a group they go on an expedition to learn the mysticism of the East, and they come into contact with these people who can do that. And they just literally, I think I focus, and they bring it into our reality from somewhere else. It's kind of like what's written about even in the Bible, that the table is already set. It's just how you access that. Well, there's like a real physical way to do that. And there's certain people on the earth. There's probably, I don't know how many, at the time of the writing of the book, there were supposedly like 6, there could be 12, 20, I don't know, who have that level of that kind of like that Jesus here and now on this earth kind of experience. I've also seen it with kids too, where one came running to me once and said, I was working with some kids, and they're like, I could walk on water. No, no one was around to see it, but the kid was saying, just a couple steps, I did it. And I'm like, I believe you did, because I'm sure they did, and even if they felt it, it's like all of us have that memory in there. And of course it gets distorted and piled mud over our windshield, like, so we forget that we can do all of these things. But where was I going with this again? But the point is, you might remember.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, go ahead.
you're supposed to have forgotten because
Oh,
that was important. You did it by saying, I believe you to another person, you unlock them. You give them their key is actually the best, more correct way of saying it, so they can unlock themselves. It's, I believe you is stronger than saying I love you.
Mhm. Oh,
It's
that's nice.
crazy.
It's
It's,
beautiful.
and you did
Oh,
this with this child.
well, and it was tying it into providers. So we think, oh, I've got to do it all, right? We're in a doing, like, what do you do for a living? Who cares? You know, like, who are you being, right? Is the thing.
Right.
Who are you being? It's not what are you doing? Yeah, okay, you do something, but you can also not do something. Why is one bad and one's good? It doesn't matter. So, but the provider part, I want to tie in, and this is where I'm kind of weaving all over, but I do want to bring it up because some people get fearful about what's coming, and then you've got the whole prepper thing, and you've got this and that. And I just want to bring it up because it's so important. Like, who is providing for us? Like, if you look at yourself as the child, so who's your provider? Okay, take your parents away or whatever on the earthly thing. Your provider is always there. It's this next level that we can't quite see. So if there's some type of event, first of all, I believe right away beyond our control, we instantly get shielded and cocooned. Our aura, fortifies, and we shift through whatever. We're not going to have a problem. But and if we stay fine, we're helping people. Who cares? Again, it's an experience. But the point is that you can prep all day long, and this is no criticism against people who prep or not. Some level, sure, if you want, do it. Go all out, or go halfway, or get a carrot stick, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. The point is, you could prep all day long, and where I'm at, we get hurricanes. It could wipe out your whole house, and then where's all your food? It's floated down to Timbuktu, So whatever. The point is that if we ever go into that kind of a mode, we're going to shift where. What are we already seeing? Not much appetite. We can talk about some symptoms. Not appetite at all, or I eat this and like right away, ooh, that feels bad now. Why? Because you're sensing all the chemicals in there, and it isn't good anymore. And how is it that I just want or can only tolerate like a carrot stick and a blueberry, or very few things, or I'm going to go for it and eat it anyway, and then oh, I don't feel good, right?
Right.
So either the provider with a capital P, it will become that we don't even need food. So why are you prepping for something you don't even need, right? Or I read it somewhere and I can't remember where now, where like the earth can just open up and then suddenly there's a wellspring of milk, honey, water, whatever you need right there. Like if it's truly needed.
Right.
Again, we just believe you either believe you are taken care of or you don't. It's like you trust or you don't. But we know it's so hard. Like I said, should be the easiest thing, but it becomes the hardest thing just to simply trust something you cannot see with your physical eyes. But must be there because that spark of life coming in, and my apologies, pardon any references that if you're not a parent, haven't experienced this, it's not a commentary on being a parent or not. It's just an example I can grab. The moment that spark, that white spark comes into the body, nobody can explain how, why, when that happens, right? So you look at a little, what is it, ultrasound or sonogram, I forget which one. That first moment, you've seen something growing in the womb. That one moment where you first start seeing the flash as an electromagnetic pulse on a screen, that's that God spark, bam, right? Does that God spark fear anything? Does that God spark go, oh, we were sent to a very bad, unsafe place. We're in trouble. No, that God spark just shines, right? Just shines. And every time that's what we're connecting into that's our source. Everybody is that, if anything else is presenting, it's something else. That true essence of each of us is pure. There are no mistakes. I don't believe the creator of all that is, the love that all that is makes mistakes. We are not mistakes. We are perfect, I believe. I know a lot of people say, oh, I'm not perfect. I believe we are. We are perfection, just
Yeah.
having different experiences. And in that perfection, we're allowed to fall. How else are we going to know how to learn to fly if we don't first fall in those little steps? Or be too afraid to always crawl and be like, oh, I better not stand up. No, the child doesn't care. Like, oh yeah, let's just go, let's just jump on that building, not off the building, not, knowing that it's high up. No fear, right? No fear. And
Yeah.
even with this journey, it's like that fear grips into us like talons and hooks. And it's just getting to that space of what really, I guess this is a funny way to kind of come back around. I'll try to make it quick, but I did have to walk two people through to transition. I don't call it death. It's just transitioning to a different frequency. Right now, my loved ones, the two that I was with when they passed, they could be standing right here. I don't have the eye, even the third eye, whatever, to see into that dimension, but they could be right there. It's just they're a different vibration, you know? So, and I know that for sure because my dear loved one who I most recently transitioned, I was so blessed to be in the room, the only one in the room with him, to see. It may sound odd. Of course, it was heart-wrenching with how, you know, it was through to hospice level. But my gosh, that journey in and of itself, and to where my loved one had to get to embrace the spiritual side of things, who would be like, you know, oh, don't talk about crystals, or, oh, you know, all that stuff, nothing, you know, to seeing the magic unfold in front of him, the spirit realm in his bed as he was passing. I feel blessed, and I'm going to share it now if we have a moment, because I feel it's very important. It's coming out strong now, for even if one person out there needs to know this. I was just, there's no word. I hate the word gobsmacked, and, you know, but there's just no word to explain what was shown to me and to him in the moments of him passing. So especially that was my first or second time in this setting, but first time in this way experiencing this. It's like God, the universe, put out the whole show, like the best ticket ever you could have to the best show on earth, literally here, before you're going to be sent off on your, you know, your next journey. They showed him beautiful things, happy things, memories, people playing in the room, animals running across. He's looking around. I know things are flying. I don't have the sight like to see, but I can feel when there's spirit presence, and I can smell, and a few other things. I can smell different entities, whatever. He's looking around. And then at one point, he put his hand to his cheek and said, am I here? And I said, oh my gosh, Dad. It was my dad. And I feel it's okay to say it. Oh my gosh, Dad, you are doing something miraculous right now. You are here, but you are also there. And you are in both places at the same time. That is amazing. That's what we're all supposed to be able to do. We just forgot that we can do that, but you're doing it. And then, and he was reaching at first, because what happens if, for people who haven't experienced it, it's maybe not with everybody. You got to be consciously passing, not drugged out to oblivion. But it's a pattern. I've seen two people do it. There's a certain time when you're only like maybe 2 days away from passing, transitioning, I'd like to say. You start to put your hand out, your right hand, typically kind of somewhere up to the ceiling where the ceiling meets the wall. And that's where some spirit team comes to greet you. It's like the, hey there, it's about time. It's going to be cool. Don't worry about it. We're here for you. And whether it's somebody you remember or just your angelic team, you may not know consciously, they're coming, and they're kind of like a wink and a smile, like, all right, it's time. No, don't worry about it. Right. So he would put his hand up, confused, but putting the hand up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're coming. And again, I couldn't see them, but I'm just kind of like, thanks, you know, like that you're coming. Then the hand came back, and I saw the countenance change, like, and I could see it. It's like, oh, I got to leave my toys behind, because he loved certain things here on this earth. He loved being on earth. He loved this as his playground, you know, sandbox, whatever. And I'm like, Dad, don't worry, you know, yeah, you're going to have to leave these things behind. I know you love them, but over there, it's going to be even better. The water's going to be even bluer. The golf course is going to be even greener, you know, kind of thing. And he kind of was trying to get into it because he was so much the other way, like not sure what he believed, whatever. Anyway, I'll wrap it up. But then they come in closer. So then his reach is a little shorter. But then again, I know he's thinking, oh, but I got to leave this behind. And I just said, look, give him a hug. Go give him a hug. Do not get trapped between two worlds. Do what you want to do, but please do not get trapped between two worlds. Either go in full and hug him full, or you stay back, but please, you know? So, and I said, and don't worry, you got a win-win situation here. You go hug him. God can still throw you back in. He might say it's not your time, and then they'll reconstitute your body enough to keep going. Or it's just your time. And hey, it's miraculous there. It's like the most wonderful thing you could ever want, you know, and more. So I'm like, it really is a win-win. And then I saw him kind of ease a bit. And I could still tell, though, he's just like, well, I'm not sure, you know, like I could see like, what the heck? This is all new. Talk about new. We're like complaining about dark nights of the soul and whatever. Like, well, hey, what about that moment when you got to decide, am I going all in or am I going to go fighting? Right. So then I think he always helped and did service to others his whole life. So something just came to me and oh my gosh, sorry, I'm talking about him. And there's this can opener that plays a fight song from the university he went to, and it just randomly went off right now. It's playing in the background. I'm freaked out. So it's all good.
Not random.
Anyway, so I know I realized there's something else that needs to come out so he feels comfortable, with this process. So I was just kind of like open to whatever God wanted to come through. And what I got was, yeah, he was helped so many people all his life. So he'll understand helping. So I said, yeah, besides, go give him a hug because I'm going to need you there when it's my time. I want to come and hug you. You got to show me the ropes around there. And I saw he eased and he's like, yeah, I got to go be up there to help from that side. And then, he did transition beautifully. And he waited till I left the room. I had to go to the bathroom so badly. I was like by his side. I'm like, I'm in here strong for you. And I had to run and I came back and I came around the corner and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. All of a sudden, there was this otherworldly glow. His body looked like a 30-year-old. And I must have come just around the corner as he went up. And I was like, oh, thank you, because there's no lingering energies. He went, and it was just so beautiful. And and I keep saying just one more thing. I want to throw one more thing on the heels of that because it might be important for somebody. In his journey, he had really hard times in the hospital. And there was that kind of ending, the last rounds were getting harder and harder. And I said to him, you think that you're just this person going as a patient to go get help and get treated. I said, no, you're there on purpose to help others. God put you there because you need to be there to help all of those who come in contact with you. Look how you helped that guy the other day when I was with him. And you counseled him because he was a counselor, guidance counselor. I said, he came to you and you could have said, no, I don't need that. He was offering something, but you stayed and you helped walk with him and heal him through his past traumas. I saw you. I said, so you may think you're just a patient, but no, you're so much more than that. You're helping people being there. God needs you there to help. And that clicked with him too. And I saw his complete experience change, in the next times. It was almost like, yeah, let's go help. And for me too, it was that journey because I wasn't doing the lethal toxic injections, the masking, none of it. I went through a year and a half fighting, standing up in my truth every day at the hospital pretty much, because I'm like, we're not doing that. And the more I stood up and pushed back, the more beautiful and amazing things happened. And so for me, it became, I was kind of mad. I'm like, God, of all people, why are you putting me in the hospital every day? Anyone else in the family doesn't have a problem with all this stuff doing it. I do. Why are you doing this kind of thing? And then I said it to myself, God is putting me there to be that one who's not doing it. And just by virtue of that, maybe giving permission for others to question or not do certain things. Just by my example, not trying to teach or preach, just that's me. I'm not doing it, right? And I was the only one at times, walking, breathing freely. But the more I got nervous about it, God was forcing me to get creative. So instead of being, how do I challenge this legally? Because there are plenty of legal things we could do. And I learned, thank God, through the grace of finding the YouTube channel, The Healthy American with Peggy Hall. Because of her, I knew the legal ease to stand up for myself and my rights. Then when it came to a temperature gun coming to me at the head, I'm like, And they're like, yeah, well, let's get creative. If I wear a baseball cap, they're going to have a harder time and buy me time to stand up in my truth. They try to come with this, then I've got my hot tea and then they leave you alone. So that too was a game. And it was like, how much more creative? That's their game and their rules. I don't have to play that. Let's play by different rules. And then let's have fun with it. Back to your point, let's play. It got to be where I'd go to the grocery store and it'd be like, I'm so sick of this, because then I would be like, oh, they'd come at me and say, you got to wear this, you got to wear that. I'm like, well, no, I don't. And then that wasn't doing it. So then I'd have to say, you're violating federal law and you're harassing me at this point and you're even discriminating. And then they would like back off. But I'm like, I don't want to have to keep saying that. So then I'm like, God, speak through me this time. Let's see what happens. And the funniest stuff came out when I did that. So a guy would come by and say, hey, where's your mask? And I'd say, in my back pocket. And he'd go, that's not funny. I'm like, yes, it is. And God gave me just funny little quips to throw out. So I was making something that was, for me, I was just really not happy with this, forced stuff over the past years, just to have fun with it and play with it. So I know I kind of went all over the place, but yeah.
I love what you said. I would like to validate something. So I was in nursing before I went into social work. I was doing nursing, and
Oh,
it worked out every time. It was anytime we had somebody who was coming close to passing, they'd always wait till I was on shift. And I was the one that would be the only one that wasn't bothered by what we call postmortem care. It's really
yeah.
a beautiful thing. We go in and we would clean the body and just,
That's
help them to present themselves to their family in a way that's,
so special to be able to do that. Yeah.
and the energy in those rooms when you're in that space is very deep and profound. And the reason it's the right hand is the hand of receiving. This is also your way of saying, I agree, I accept. So you accept from your right hand and you give from your left. And that's why it's always the right hand reaching out, reaching to it. It's I'm agreeing. And so it's just kind of interesting. You brought up that aspect. I didn't know I'd never heard anyone else notice that before. And that's just something that's, there's been a bunch of comments that, I don't know if I'll read all of them, but I was just going to say that there is a lot going on with this food. You brought up the food earlier, in the beginning of that conversation. And the preppers, I can say all of us at some point on our awakening are a prepper, which is part of the awakening. Whether you stay there or not, it's up to you. I can say that I went back to, as I was unburdening myself of belongings, I found the stuff that I had stored away, the emergency food and all this stuff. It was all the wrong stuff. Like you said, it's not food that I would eat any longer. It was like, it's preparing ourselves. I believe we do the prepping stuff because we know we're no longer going to be in alignment with those things. And we're trying to take
Oh,
them with
yeah.
us, but we can't take them
Mm.
with us because they don't work with us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of us are doing what Spiritual Warrior mentioned, 1 meal a day, lots of liquids, this intermittent fasting. A lot of us are
Yeah.
doing this, and we will be moving into bringing in more energy rather than eating energy the way that we do, and I think a lot of people already are starting to. This manna thing is kind of fascinating. We need to wrap it up in a little bit, but there's so much to cover. You had
Oh, and again, I don't even like the word prepper. Again, it's trying to put a label on stuff. And it's beautiful to be prepared or prepare something. So yeah, I just want to make sure that's clear. And yeah,
yes.
I kind of had like the belts and suspenders approach. It's like, oh, I need this, but then I need a backup to the backup, right? Like, and I've done that, and now I'm sitting in a bunch of stuff that I'm being called to get rid of, right? Like physical boxes and bins and stuff, and yeah, definitely. So I'm in
Yeah.
it, getting rid of stuff.
It's kind of fun, because we could see that's something we can compare. That's why I like the story, is that so many of us can relate to this. All of us in some way relate to this, and which moves us into full circle, a topic that was brought up before we started this conversation. And it does feel like it's perfect. Is so what's happening, as many of you know, in this awakening, we're moving into what they call the pink frequency. And I still am learning what that means, to be honest. It's really beautiful, but there's a lot of purging that's required to get to this place. The main thing about it is that as we no longer require privacy, because we talk about privacy all the time as like something that's important, and like secrets and getting to, and that seems important. However, as we begin to be available or allowed to just be ourselves in whatever crowd we're in, and to just not have any kind of consequence as a result, we no longer have a requirement for privacy. Why am I bringing this up is what they say is the age of suspicion is what's keeping us from this peak frequency. The age of suspicion is an element that exists with the need of privacy. They mingle, they belong, if not for one, there won't be the other. And so becoming suspicious of our neighbor, of our fellow, of the guy down the road, somebody getting your privacy exposed, eliminates the ability to reach into this peak frequency place. And so as more and more of us operate in this authentic, just be you, just whatever that means, just be you, our privacy, the need for privacy dissipates. And those who are so concerned about holding in the secrets, their privacy, there's that stuff. It releases all of the victimizer, all of that stuff just goes away. It just goes away. And then we continue to ascend into this pink frequency. That's actually why there's so many pink bubbles on the camera. A lot of times, well, I guess I use my background now, so you can only see it on my face. But the pink frequency is what comes in when the channeling comes in. I turn pink.
Oh, okay.
It looks like I'm pink. It's bubble in front of me. Anyway, you brought this up earlier when we were talking about phones and cameras and stuff like that. And, I had this covered, like I have my cover that I keep on my things as well. And this is what we're looking forward to, is where we're going. I don't know if you have any input about that. I just really wanted to bring that up because you brought it up earlier.
Yeah. Oh, it came up because we were also talking about, in combination with that, about if we truly are ascending or shifting, or however you want to, phrase it, moving into different frequencies clearly, because even the sun is showing us that. And I guess the moon too. I'm partial to the sun. I know I never clicked with the moon, but not that it's bad. It's just, I don't know. I just don't feel it. But the thing is that if we're doing this shifting, right, it's said that when we do get to a higher, quote unquote, higher dimension, just a different dimension, right, that words, we don't need words anymore. Things are more telepathic. And so everyone, by virtue of telepathy, you have to be an open book, because anyone's going to be able to read your mind as a part of that, in tandem with, in connection with the mental telepathy, is reading the mind and reading the soul, reading the aura, right? The energy. So the energy doesn't lie, it's like the dogs feel you coming, 25 feet away. We can feel each other thousands of miles apart. You can know if a loved one's in trouble or thinking of you, and you hold your heart at the same time. You're like, yeah, okay, we don't need wireless. We are wireless, right? So the point is, we'll be getting into it's just a thought, like, are they okay? And you connect right in. Yeah. Oh, is there something I need to check on? Yeah, go do it. You'll feel it, right? So the point is that in not a society, in a vibration of where we don't need words and we can kind of read minds right away, that necessitates that there is no deception. There's nothing to hide, because everything's going to be readable. So what are you hiding, right? And if you have something to hide, then okay, that's not the frequency for you yet. And it's okay. It can be, but just get used to not like, oh, don't see this, live a life where, do I care if somebody sees that? Like you're saying, if you're living authentically, you don't care, do I care what somebody thinks? No, I'm living how I want to live when you get to that point, right? So there won't be need for this privacy. Oh, security breach. Well, I'm an open book. So what do you want to do with it? Fine, go ahead, knock yourself out. Anyway, this. So I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to be ashamed of. So what? Okay. Yeah, you found it. All right, good for you. You want a cookie?
You want a cookie?
You want I guess, like a glow drink or whatever, if we don't have cookies up there. So that won't exist in that frequency, right? And I've had moments, I don't know if you have, out in public, where I'm like, I think that person just read my mind, because I thought something and then they responded imperceptibly, but I'm like, without words, but I'm like, I think they just got a meaning off of me, but maybe it was just energy and not the
Oh yeah,
reading. But
it happens all the time.
yeah,
All the
yeah.
time.
And so,
And
yeah, we're
also
entering.
a secret. You're shouting the secret, by the way.
What now?
With people who are telepathic or in tune with
Oh,
some, when you're keeping a secret, you're actually shouting the secret. You can't
oh.
hear anything else but their secret. It's just like, stop, just please. I don't want to know your secret. Stop yelling it at me. That's how it comes out for me.
Oh,
Anyway,
that's funny. That is funny. Yeah, and at a certain point, again, if it's playing a game, I love watching kids because they just come with that unencumbered energy and like you can know everything about it. Hey, do you want to see this? And this just happened yesterday. And that is what we're supposed to do, right? Return, you go through life with the childlike wonder and, be open to it. And I had this, this is leading maybe not quite on topic, but whatever our topic is, we're going all over. But I remember just that feeling of connecting with agelessness too, like it's childlike wonder, but not being like the physical child, but the spirit of the child for sure. But I had a very profound experience in the grocery store a couple of years ago, and well, many happened in the grocery store. I don't know why, but I remember I was pushing the cart around, and I wasn't like in a happy place. I wouldn't say I wasn't also depressed, but I was just kind of like, as they say now, meh, whatever, pushing the cart. And then I see ahead of me, there's another cart, and there's this little kid, and he was maybe, between 1 and 2 years old. And he's looking at me, and I lock eyes with him, just like I look up, and I felt it. And it was like time stood still. And it's like we were both laughing. And it's like, you get it, and I get it. Like, we're in these bodies, but you're God and I'm God presence presenting here. And it's like, and we're in on the joke, like, this is just like all nonsense. Like, we're pushing cards in this box, but it was just so cute because it was just kind of like we could see into each other and be like, yeah, we get the joke here, and it's cool, And then it was just that one little moment. And again, it's just like getting to the spark to spark. Like I see your little sparks on your wheel behind. That's like our little God spark, And just once you connect with that, it's just like no words are needed, right? It's just like you get it, I get it. Like we're there in that space, It's just beautiful when those things happen.
and it's the deep laugh. You
Yeah.
feel the deep laugh, like the laugh in your chin that Jesus brings, like the energy that we call Jesus. That's, I can tell the energy of Jesus is coming because I feel the laugh in my chin.
Oh,
Like
cool.
it's like a deep belly laugh, but when you're anyway, and these kids, they
That's
have
cool.
it. They have it. It's that pure love, joy. You laugh in your chin and you know that they're there. Like, and there's so many of them. There's so many of them. I am really excited for what's because what I get for you is that it's within this year that you're actually
Oh,
talking,
thanks.
so like the journey that you're on is about to expand. And earlier before we started the show, I actually asked if there was a contact information I can give out because I feel that you're a practitioner energy, and like a lot of you I'm sure can feel too. Um, this is something that's already in place for you. So when you do get established, I hope you reach out so we can share this with others because
Oh, thank you. And sure. Thanks so much.
you're such a joyful energy and
You
like
too. Oh, I want to say too to you, I didn't get to love bomb you in the beginning like I wanted to. Again, I just want to thank you so much to go at this every week, every day like you do, and sharing all that you do, open-hearted. And I just get like such a sunshiny energy with you. And I was talking about names and importance of names before I think we came on live. And I just wanted to say for you, when I work or deal with somebody, or you just come into contact with somebody, sometimes if I have time, I'll look up the name and I look up the etymology and the meaning. And I like to go as far back as possible. So Greek, preferably, like get before Latin, go further back or whatever, or just see what clicks, like jumps out. And I have to say, my real name, so Varleigh is a artist name, a pseudonym, and for this kinds of stuff, but that means greatest truth. So how I came upon that name was really kind of wild how I even got to it. And it was before my quote unquote awakening. And so after I awakened, I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect. That really clicks, sits well. My original name meant pure one, which is also correct. But I looked up your name and just with that sunshiny, beaming energy that I feel from you, like, ray of sunshine, is I looked up Pamela, and it's an interesting, I invite you to look it up too, and you'll see what clicks with you. But the funny thing is that Pamela is actually a word in Spanish. Pamela is sun hat.
Sun hat.
Sun hat. And if you look to Greek, it says something like all sweetness. So that's all true. But anyway, yeah, it's just fun when you get into names and, the whole idea of living up to your name or expressing your name or feeling you need to change your name as you change, right? So my old name didn't really serve. And we talked about, yeah, you can call us by the original name but that's fine too. But certain names will seem to define us more. And if you look at kids, what they call themselves, and it's just the spirit again at play. Like, why are you defined by one name? I had these two tiny little tots. They were so cute, these little trick-or-treaters several years ago. They came to the door, and I love to dress up, any chance to do cosplay or whatever, I'll do it. I'm all in.
Right on.
And so I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm not really feeling to like go full though this year in a costume. And I had my kid as well. So we would go, do the trick-or-treating things. So anyway, I went to the door to answer the door, and I decided I was going to be not just the easiest thing was like, awesome. I love it. I'll call you instead of Aowyn or Arwen. Oh, that's awesome. So I decided what's quick and easy to do. So I threw on this Darth Vader t-shirt that has the cape, that's easy, but then I'm like, oh, I'll put this lanyard on, and I printed this thing out that said Star Wars fan, right? And then I'm like, oh, I have this mask of the Mandalorian, or I have the lightsaber, and I just like I had the headband with the Princess Leia bun ears, like the buns were on your ears. And I put that on, and then I came to the door, and the kids were there, and they're like, oh, what are you? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm Star Wars, but look, I'm Luke, I'm Leia, I'm Darth. I'm like, I'm all of them. And the kids, they almost forgot their candy. They were so excited. They ran to go tell their dad, Dad, she's all of them. She's all.
Wow, that's fun.
So that made my heart smile so much, because I'm like, yeah, why do I have to just be this for Halloween or that for Halloween? Heck, let's just be whatever we want, create a new thing, But I love your ears. They look realistic, by the way.
Thanks. I like
awesome.
my ears.
They're
I
awesome.
was so happy when I found them. I was like, I still have my ears.
Those are cool.
I lost one of my sandals along the journey just to get from Washington to here. I was so sad.
Oh no.
I have both ears.
But the ears are, those count.
The art of play is an art form that we come here with the ability to have naturally. And it's just returning back to it. We do have to wrap this up. I want to say thank you for all the loving words. And I'm so glad that we were able to connect. Thank you so much for being on today's show, by the way.
I thank you.
A lot of people, I hope that you go back after, I think it takes a little bit before you can see the live chat after the thing's been up on YouTube. And also, they don't show you how many people have come during the call. Like, you'll go back and look at the video, and you'll see the counter starting as soon as we ended this video. So I just want to let you all know, for those of you who don't know, we've had a lot of people this whole time.
Oh, and I did just want to mention, because I know you said, oh, if people find you, I'm not offering any services or anything, but I do have, if it's okay, I have the YouTube channel, which is called Lavender Sky Panther. And I have an email contact there. It's lspskyefotos@gmail.com. If anybody wants to send a message, or through you, doesn't matter. But that just shows a little bit about what I do. It's a sky, nature, spiritual kind of based channel. It's documenting things that have been going on in the skies. And the name just comes from lavender is the voice to soothe and heal, like through the voice, the tones and the sound frequencies. The sky part is because doing the sky observations, I was divinely told you are going to look up and see things in the sky. I'll leave it for people to go see what that means. And then panther is just, that's like my spirit animal. So that was like the earth and grounding part and the spiritual part. So anyway, that's where that is.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And thank you. If after this is on, I'll also go back and put that on in the comments. Find it. There has been one thing that's been said over and over that it just seems like everybody's experiencing this. So I should say it before we go, is that a lot of people are feeling very, very emotional right now. This activation that started is kind of a joke now to say that anymore. But the bam, reset energy of it was Sunday night, Monday morning. And there's going to be a couple more. We got this new moon energy that's happening, and the Venus Cazimi is happening. I don't even feel like I said that the right way. Not only that, we're feeling already the solstice. For those of you, because it's funny how many people have forgotten that there's another solstice, and like, because everybody's thinking about the winter solstice already. There's a summer one, or for at least the northern hemisphere. The southern hemisphere, it's the winter solstice. That's the 20th. That's just in a couple of weeks. And right before that, that Sunday is the Father's Day energy that's happening. And there's also going to be a solar flare on that weekend too. And so just so y'all know, you're not alone. There's a lot of stuff that's coming through. Allow yourself to feel it. It's emotion, energy and motion. It's meant to go. Just like,
and also, I'm sorry, but I've noticed right after the solar eclipse, that was a very significant time. I normally am level, okay, we'll get through anything, but I have been jittery and all over the place. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like big time. And with the flares too, definitely. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something big has happened.
That's why we had that party. That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
Oh yeah,
now.
I loved your solar vibration. That was so cute.
Thank you. That was fun. Well, we're gonna have another party like that down the road. But in the meantime, that was yes. And we opened into the next place. And so now all the things that we're doing feels like you're trying to figure out where to put your elbows, because we haven't done this in body before. This physical human body has not been coded for what we're doing. So a lot of us feel like we're little kids wandering around, just go, I don't know, like first day of school, you don't know how to work a locker, that kind of idea.
Good one. Yes.
Well,
Exactly.
You're not the only one. We're all doing it, right? You too.
Yeah. And again, so I'm again grateful you have what you have going on. I was shadow banned from the get-go. Like the moment I launched, it was clear, so I knew. I was even told though by a guide, like, don't worry about the numbers. It's not about that for you, just do it. Don't like look almost, and it's true. And I see, because I was like capped, like, come on, it's a physical impossibility if you look at the subscribers and number of videos, but it wasn't about that for me. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. So I'm happy that you are growing and flourishing here, by the numbers, and are doing what you do and have the reach that you reach. And of course, regardless of the numbers, it's going to reach who it's meant to, right? Yes. Whatever is transmitted. So.
And what's your YouTube channel again?
It's 3 words: lavender, sky, SKY, and panther. And then there's the what do you call it? The little thumbnail is of like a little panther with pinks and greens. It's not my face.
Awesome.
And now, and I was saying, I got to call you Mela. It's mapped in my mind, Mela instead of Mila. But now I cannot unsee you. Every time from now on, you must wear those ears. They're you. I love it. I love it. Too. I want to send you a cloak.
I wear them by myself a lot of the time. Like I
love
feel
it. Love it.
I'm just like, okay, now I can put on my ears.
I love it.
You forget you're wearing them and the mailman's looking at you funny and you don't know why.
Well, then you just say, hey, wear yours. Huh? Where are yours?
Yeah, we are ourselves no matter where we go. It doesn't matter, and it makes it very, thank you, Love Infinitum. That's correct with spaces. Lavender, Sky, Panther. Thank you for writing that in the hey, we're getting a solar flare right now, according to my computer. Those of you who don't have this, I got this computer with MSN weather connected to it, and I didn't actually even know that's what it was until someone finally asked. I get a signal that says high UV now or extremely high UV. And it says it only pops up. There's not a thing to go find it. It'll pop up the moment we're being impacted by a solar flare.
That comes in handy.
Just popped up. Yeah.
Oh, well, then that's like receive the good stuff out of it.
I always do that. I like to put my hands up in receiving. Thank you for that. And thank you. I do need to get going. I gotta go pee.
We talked about that too. I won't do any running water sound effects in the background.
I've just loved this conversation, and I love you. Thank you so much for
love you too.
And I hope that you come back
anytime you wish. And this goes out to everyone out there too. Big love, heartfelt I say, you know, big hugs and love all around for everyone.
We got this. Love is in the air.
Yes.
Oh, before I forget, should say something. The Trinity of the heart. I was supposed to mention this. The Trinity, I wrote it down in channel, is appreciation, trust, and belief. Appreciation. So appreciation is different than gratitude.
Yes.
Gratitude implies that you are beneath something and that something is owed, like a thank you is
Yeah.
required. But appreciation is equal all.
Yeah. I love that's beautiful.
And then trust, this has to do with self, by the way. This is about self. Trusting other people and other things has nothing, trust self. And belief in self, believing in yourself, believing what you're doing can work. What's the better way to say it? When I believe in my healing, the healing is more long lasting and more notable by the other individual. So when we believe
Yeah.
something
Feel it.
away, it's stronger.
Yeah. You feel it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So the
Beautiful.
Trinity of the heart. So thank
I
you so
love
much
that.
for being
Thank
part of
you.
the Trinity of this heart.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you all. Thank you for joining us. If anyone wants to join me on a call like this and have a conversation, have their voice heard, please reach out. My email is connected or will be connected to the description of this video once I put a description in it. Please reach out and if you're interested and would like a place to share your voice. So thank you all. We will be doing our Friday Zoom group meeting as we were before, starting again. So we're doing it every Friday. This week, I believe we're doing it at 4 p.m. I will put that posting out tomorrow evening when we know the time for sure. It's free. It's not aired or recorded. You don't have to have your camera or your audio on. It's just a place for all of us to join and have a place to share our voice, or we don't feel like we have to be seen by somebody and worried that someone's going to hear our story. It's private, it's beautiful. So if you are inspired to join us, you'll find that in the community section of my YouTube channel, as well as in the Telegram groups. So I love you. Thank you all for being here. Aho blessings. Thank you.